Welcome to Public Conscience. This is the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society group with the mandate to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Adaobi Obiabumo with Chidozie Ogbonnaya.
Welcome to the program. On Public Conscience on Radio, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of corruption stories reported by our partner media organizations and drawing citizens and government attention for democratic actions against it. This program is supported by MacArthur Foundation.
Today, we are continuing with the amplification of an investigation by Premium Times Center for Investigative Journalism, which revealed flagrant abandonment and poor execution of projects by Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC.
Apart from abandoning uncountable projects in the region, the Commission is indicted for several financial improprieties and fraud.
Last week after our program, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, arrested top officials of the Interim Management Committee, IMC, of NDDC over alleged diversion and misappropriation of 5.4 billion naira COVID-19 fund.
ICPC said they will also be investigating payment of millions of naira to staff of NDDC for foreign training during the COVID-19 lockdown, the non-payment of entitlements to students on foreign scholarship, selling of backdated contract award letters for projects, among others.
To further look into what many Nigerians tag reckless extravagance of public funds by NDDC officials and the need for punitive actions to be established, we have in the studio a human rights lawyer and executive director, Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights, Frank Tietie. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, and
my
pleasure.
Program.
Thank you.
And for you out there, get ready to join us through phone and text messages.
Please follow us on our social media platforms at Official PRIMOG. PRIMOG is spelled PRIMORG. We are also streaming live on Facebook at Official PRIMOG. And you can watch our videos on PRIMOG TV, our YouTube channel.
PRIMOG TV is our YouTube channel. We want to encourage you to subscribe to get reminders whenever we have a new post. And the WhatsApp line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. This number is for messages only.
It's good to have you.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And we are glad because you are somebody who knows the terrain very well. You've been around. You are a vocal voice in Nigeria over misgovernance, poverty, and human rights. And you are from the region. You are a son of the soil. So we want you to give us your personal overview of the situation in Niger Delta and the gap NDDC was set up to fill.
Thank you very much. NDDC was set up to bridge the many years of infrastructural neglect and the degradation that is associated with exploration and exploitation of crude oil in the region. Because of the configuration of the Nigerian state and the total acquisition of oil and appropriation of oil rights by the federal government in 1969, it became so obvious to the international community that the Niger Delta has been neglected. And when the conscience of the Nigerian government at the time was pricked enough to set up palliative measures to ameliorate the conditions in the Niger Delta, we saw that various interventionist programs like UMPADEC, which eventually metamorphosed into the NDDC, were set up, and we had things like the 13% derivation fund set aside for special development in the Niger Delta, and the recent creation of the Ministry of the Niger Delta, and then the amnesty program, all of which have been interventions to improving the conditions in the Niger Delta. But unfortunately, and primarily for this reason of corruption, the Niger Delta still represents one of the most underdeveloped and devastated areas in the entire world. and it's an international disgrace to us as a country and to us as a people, because what has happened to the people in Niger Delta is that a few collaborators from the Niger Delta who have been saddled with these interventionist programs for the region have constituted themselves to be enemies of the people of the Niger Delta. They have not translated the good intentions on paper with regards to the NDDC, particularly in this case, to improve living conditions for the people. The NDDC has become a cesspool of corruption, a conduit for draining public resources. And the painful part of it is that it is for the window dressing, for playing to the gallery that things are happening in Nigeria, that such and such an amount of money has been approved for the Nigeria, appropriated for the NDDC, whereas nothing tangible has been happening. Either there are white elephant projects that are intended to not to be ever be completed, and then we find 90% of the monies for the projects paid up front, and the contractors just put in signboards that they came, took pictures, and then they vanished into the air, and nothing has been happening. So there seems to be one kind of collaboration, collusion on the part of anti-corruption agencies, on the part of the federal government, in allowing this kind of malfeasance going on in the Niger Delta, with this suffering, with this glaring, apparent, corruption, disregard for our laws, disregard for our appropriation laws, disregard for the development, the need for development. And we are yet to see persons in prison. We are yet to see persons refunding billions. We're not talking about hundreds of billions, billions of naira over the years. Then I would like to conclude, because a lot more will be said. When this President Buhari has came into power, and for one inscrutable reason, he directed that a forensic audit has been done, should be done. Everything in the world has been thrown into the table to ensure that the forensic audit is not concluded. And then we see this ping pong approach to accusations by members of the National Assembly, and then this time around members of the interim management committee, who ought to have simply superintended over a forensic audit, who eventually turned out to be persons who were dishing out contracts, awarding to themselves palliatives in very humongous and disgraceful manner, running into billions, embarrassing the entire world, not even Nigeria, because the world is stupefied. The world is scandalized that this kind of thing is happening in Nigeria. But the more painful thing is that we are yet to see any meaningful thing happening. To see that this forensic audit is yet to be concluded, and we now have all of this drama, people fainting, and then members of the National Assembly be accused of twisting not only the NIMC members, but previous boards of the NDDC to get contracts for themselves. We even hear that a judicial officer even saw the NDDC as a place where which has been rightly described as where monies are ferreted into for the purpose of settling the boys or settling some political patrons. So this is a sad story in its entirety.
You did mention that there's a collusion between the anti-graft agencies, talking about the ICPC and the EFCC, with NDDC officials. But recently, Mrs. Azuka, the spokesperson for the commission, did mention that they have arrested 4 persons of the NDDC officials.
There is an expression that says that better late than never. But when there is an omission, it becomes a collusion. Look, let us understand something. The purpose of setting up the police or any anti-corruption agency like the EFCC or the ICPC is first and foremost to prevent corruption. Now, we see our anti-corruption agencies laid back, sit back and watch, collecting salaries, waiting for trouble to happen, waiting for people to ensure that they circumvent the budget, they ensure that monies that have been appropriated are stolen. They ensure that projects are coming. They are waiting for petitions to be written. They are waiting for the National Assembly to hold those kind of drama before they step into action. Does the ICPC need to wait for this kind of national disgrace that we have had concerning the NDDC before it will decide to arrest persons? This is what I call window dressing. So the idea of collusion is simply because these crimes have been allegedly committed in full blown. People have suffered. Development agenda they have been destroyed and forgotten, and it is now that the ICPC wants to wake up to say that it's acting.
Isn't it better for them to act than for, like what you said, they will just sit down and fold their hands? At least they are seen to be busy. They've arrested people.
What we are saying first and foremost is that our president and we as a people, to whom sovereignty of this country belong to, should first of all say that first of all, and the ICPC, including the ICPC, EFCC, Code of Conduct Bureau, and all the other anti-corruption agencies and the police, let us first of all acknowledge that we have failed. First, we failed the people of Niger Delta for allowing the kind of sleaze that have been associated with the NDDC. So you see, we have come to become a people that are constantly inundated with dramatic happenings with regards to corrupt sharing of our resources, and then we enjoy the drama daily on live television. That cannot continue. So this medicine after death that is being administered is something that we should first of all condemn, and then we cannot sit down and start. Yes, it is okay that they have at least created the impression that yes, they have arrested. What? Have we not seen several invitations before that appear to look like arrest? We know what an arrest is. We know what a summon is. An arrest is when you go out of your way as a law enforcement agent to restrain, to forcibly restrain anybody for the purpose of subjecting him to either investigation or to the application or to prosecution. So some of these things that are mere invitations, mere summons, and what happens thereafter? We want to see painstaking investigations carried out, persons prosecuted, property recovered, forfeited and recovered, and then we go back to the development agenda for the Niger Delta people. The NDDC so far has been I lack the proper adjective to describe the NDDC. But so far, it has been a failure, it's a disgrace, and it appears that it was actually meant to circumvent, to divert attention from the neglect in the Niger Delta to serve as a palliative that never was.
Talking about neglect in the Niger Delta, last week on this program, we had officials of Premium Times here, and they did say that a whooping 2.16 trillion naira has been allocated to the agency, and there's little or nothing to show for it. What's your take on the impact of NDDC in the Niger Delta region since its creation in 2000?
I don't want to sound like a broken record. NDDC has failed the Niger Delta people. And when activists like us from the Niger Delta shout at the federal government that you are neglecting our people, you are neglecting the environment, and then they begin to tell us figures. And the federal, so what NDDC has successfully done, and those of us, those are our brothers and sisters that have operated on NDDC in the past, what has actually happened is that they have successfully given the federal government an excuse for keeping our people in perpetual poverty, in perpetual neglect, in perpetual degradation. That's what has happened.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate NDDC in Niger Delta? The 9,000 projects, about 9,000 projects, they say they've executed since its formation. How do you rate them? Do you think we have up to 50% of these projects on ground?
In terms of projects, why don't you consider rating them beginning from a minus? I don't want to sound extremist. Let me tell yes, because you see, what was the situation of things before? What has happened now is that before now we had grounds to clamor for development. We no longer have such grounds. You talk to the federal government and then they'll tell you that we've given your governors 13% derivation fund. Those ones, those ones are purely unaccounted for. It's a different discussion. Then when it comes to the NDDC, they show you projects that they have put in place that are not in use. They show you roads that were better off as earth roads, but now when you put asphalt on those roads with big potholes because we're poorly done, it's now more difficult for those roads to be more motorable. You put projects there that even NDDC doesn't know where those projects are. So NDDC, the IMC recently appropriated money to some consultants to go and look for NDDC projects, to go into the bushes, to hire locals, to go and search for projects that have been overtaken by weeds and wild animals. What kind of disgraceful thing is that? It is better that we didn't have all of this so that we can start on a fresh and a well-directed template. But what we have now is that we have come to have a confusing state of affairs. The government says it has appropriated these monies. The people don't see these monies. All that we have are individuals from the Niger Delta who are playing thieves, who are playing, who are playing politics of corruption with the resources that are meant for the people. And then we have a federal government that does not move so swiftly against these persons. What does the ICP? What did the ICPC need to wait for the kind of thing that we had in National Assembly? The National Assembly has done its job pursuant to Section 88 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by exposing the corruption, the sleaze, and the horrible dimension of self-enrichment in the Niger Delta Development Commission, and we are still talking about invitations.
Have you totally lost hope in our anti-graft agencies concerning this NDDC? Because an arrest was just made the other day.
Was it not Cairo Jubu that has just recently announced that were he to mention the the names of the members of the National Assembly that have collected contracts from the NDDC and never executed them, the country will break? Where is Cairo Jubo? Why has he not been summoned either by the National Assembly or by ICPC and been compelled to bring out those names? What is this joke all about? Because it concerns us from the Niger Delta? So it matters that concern us, no problem. So long as the oil keeps flowing, there is no problem. So so long as the former militants who used to disturb the flow of oil have been settled, and then the people have been kept quiet, and then the political leaders of the people of the region have been shot by allowing this kind of corruption, which can now be used as a form of blackmail against them. No leader of the Niger Delta who has soiled his hands in stealing NDDC money can dare accuse this government or complain to this government. They will simply open your file, and so the government enjoys the fact that it has all of these persons in its kit and kitty, and that the books can always be opened against them. So who speaks for the people? Who speaks for the people? Look, we have been accused that all we can do is talk, but when we keep on talking, we will let them know that we know what is going on, and that there is hope that things will change. And when eventually things change, all of this person will be brought to book. This present administration has a golden opportunity to ensure that persons who have been exposed to have been corrupt with regards to NDDC money are brought to book swiftly. And then we expect so quickly that the forensic audit is concluded, and then we can have a greater form of scrutiny, and then a report to the public and see those persons who are actually the enemies of the people of the Niger Delta.
You did mention that the federal government is quiet, but it will be recalled that President Muhammadu Buhari approved 722.3 million for forensic audit of the NDDC, with the National Assembly stepping down its probe of the current NDDC IMC. Do you think the federal government has shown enough hunger to bring culpable NDDC officials to book?
No, certainly not. When a government sets up an IMC for the purpose of superintending over the conduct of a forensic audit, and that that IMC starts now awarding contracts, starts awarding COVID-19 palliatives, running into billions to themselves. And we saw Professor Ponde telling in a very shameful manner, justify the fact that he said, we have to first of all take care of ourselves before we take care of NDDC. Those of us who work in NDDC have to first of all take care of ourselves before we take care of the people. What kind of shameful, reckless statement was that? Imagine that. The mentality of public service in Nigeria is no longer, the concept of service is not there. It's public self-service. That is, you first of all serve yourself as a public official before you serve the public. What kind of thing is that? And that is what is being condoned. No, at the moment the man said that, the moment the man veered from the mandate of conducting forensic, the president should not only have sacked him, but should have probed him and then indicted him. But when it comes to the issue of the Niger Delta, you just sit there with kid glove so long as the oil keeps flowing. So you want the boys to go back to the creeks and bomb those pipes before you know that something bad is happening in the Niger Delta? Can't we, for goodness sake, show some sense of responsibility and goodwill to the people of the Niger Delta and say, look, we care about you. It's not just about your oil. But when you allow the people from the Niger Delta who collaborate with this kind of corrupt regime, when I say regime, I'm not talking about the government, but this regime of collusion allowing corruption to thrive and to fester and then to bring forth fruits before you now answer. You can't say that you are a friend of Niger Delta. You can't say that the government is responding by approving money for forensic audit that is yet to be. As at the time the probe by the National Assembly was being done, the very reason the IRT was set up has not even started. They have not even appointed the auditors for the purpose of showing what the NDC has been doing since its inception. So I don't want this kind of window dressing approach that the government has towards the development of the Niger Delta. It is not good for us. It's not good for this government. It's not good for the president. That the whole world is watching because they respect our sovereignty. They don't make the comments. Does not mean that they are not seeing what is going on. What is going on in the NDDC? What's going on in the Niger Delta? This neglect, this injustice, this painful, disregard for the development of people is something that is unacceptable to the world as we speak. And one day, the United Nations will call a session particularly for the Niger Delta, and that's when we'll know how serious the matter has been.
Okay, this program is an interactive one. We are inviting you, the listeners, to call in. Tell us what your advice to the federal government on bringing perpetrators of fraud in NDDC to book and preventing future occurrence. We've been speaking with Frank Tietie. We're looking at the corruption in the NDDC. Hello, your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Jacob. I'm calling from Guarimpa, Abuja. Let's hear you, Jacob. I want to first of all appreciate the effort of Barrister Frank Tietie. He has spoken very well, and I wish the government can listen to this kind of outcry. I am a Niger Deltan. I know what we are going through, and it's high time that voices like this begin to come up so that they can keep the government on toes. I want to encourage especially Mr. Frank Tietie to continue with this effort, continue to speak out, because this is an opportunity. What he's saying, the whole world, and I want to thank the radio station especially. I want to thank you for the program. I want you guys to be encouraged, and then let the program continue. If the government is not willing to listen, the world is listening. Everybody is listening. I was in
round up 30 seconds
recently, and I know what is going on. The people of Niger Delta are suffering. Graduates are not being employed. Projects are being abandoned, and nothing is being done about it. And it's high time.
Thank you for your contribution. So we'll give other people the chance to call in. Go ahead. We can hear you.
This is Mr. Rochini from Kubwa.
Let's hear you.
Well done job, somewhere. Well done job. All this argument of Niger Delta something of a thing is even embarrassing to everybody in Nigeria. It's not the only Niger Delta people that are involved. You want to go to Port Harcourt, you want to go and see those people there. I don't know why somebody will come from the same area and be, hello, sir.
We can hear you. Hello? Go ahead. We can hear you.
I don't know why somebody will come from his own region and be connecting with somebody from another place to invest money to do all those rubbish into their people. In fact, I don't know. Let federal government, let Buhari come into this matter and deal with all of them. They arrest them. The lawyer in the house, thank you very much. You are doing a fantastic job. It's not the Niger Delta alone. It's for everybody. It's for all of us in Nigeria. We have no other place to be proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
Pius is my name from Airport Road.
Let's hear you, Pius.
Yeah, you people are doing a nice job. We just pray that this investigation in NDDC will see the light of the day. It cannot be as a previous investigation that will be swept under the carpet. Because it's not the first time we are hearing investigation about fraud in the system. And the people are the masses. We just pray God will use farmers, we use people, we use all well-meaning Nigerians to prevail on this current administration to see to the logical conclusion this issue of Niger Delta, because the place and the money that is being sunk in that place, they are at variance. So thank you very much
for your contribution there. Hello.
Hello.
Your name and where you're calling from.
Hello, my name is MacArthur.
What would you advise the president to do at this time?
Okay, I want to first of all thank Frank Ekete for his wonderful contribution there. You see, the biggest challenge you have in this country is this. The corruption endemic. We need a workable institutions that can help to fight corruption and bring it to a logical conclusion. All this shadow we are pursuing, you just say a media trial, and then the next thing, everything is locked down. You will not hear any information from that area again. The moment they discover another one, you hear another information, you hear a media trial, and everything will just go down like that.
Are you confident that the ICPC... Can you hear me, sir?
If we have a workable institutions, it will be easier for us to prosecute those who perpetrate themselves in corruption. What is happening in Niger Delta is terrible. And this thing is not just for Niger Delta alone, it's applicable to all agencies we have in Nigeria. We need to work out an institution that can fight corruption so that Nigeria can move forward. The country is dying. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Strengthening existing institutions. Hello. Your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, my name is Osagede. In fact, I'm from Niger Delta area. I'm from Edo State. There is a project in my own village that was done by NDDC. Do you know that they make a road across the express road, existing express road? Hello there.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, but if you move on that road, shortly they just bend it. You will not see it from the express road to where they bend it. They tied it and everything, and the road came out from Abo. And on the other side, the road came out from Uluku. Whereas that did not pass only 2 kilometers there. You know that the contract was awarded and the money paid for only 2 kilometers. So this thing that have come up is a very good one. If actually they mean what they are doing, if the investigation is really proper. Because there are so many.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Like that.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Pass what they meet the eyes.
Can you hear me, sir?
No, I don't. Yes.
From what you just said, the road is half done. Did the people in your community, did you do anything with respect to that?
And today, from the people in my community, the road came and they started. So we are happy with what is going to be contract really. But when they stop, they bend it. You will not see it from where you stand. They bend it. So they did not invite us into the project.
If they didn't invite you, you invite yourself. You make inquiries.
What I'm doing now, where are we going to complain? They did not tell us, we did not even tell them to give us road. If they ask us, we have a better thing to ask for.
Thank you so much. Would you want to react to what he said?
Oh yes, because what happens? Let us not pretend that we don't know the processes of corruption. And that's why I want to challenge the independent corruption practices commission, ICPC. Because ICPC has one of its mandates, the study of processes of corruption, the understanding of how corruption operates in ministries, departments, and agencies of government. So, and that's why it's painful that these things are committed before the ICPC responds. And sometimes it will not respond unless there is a petition by a disgruntled element. Because that element who is writing that petition, most likely is because when they shared the contract, he didn't get. Or he was an insider who was offended. So because you were challenging that man what he could have done. That man was helpless because he doesn't have access to information. He doesn't know how these things operated. He was it there when the item was inserted in the budget?
But
what happens is this? What happens is that you see politicians who will go and lobby to get projects inserted into the Appropriation Act, the budget, not because those projects will reflect much of development for the people, but with the hope that when that project is eventually in the budget, they will nominate an agent or a nominee or a contractor to do that job for themselves. And they are interested in the money because another election is coming. How many times have the government responded to the accusation that NDDC is just there to provide monies for funding elections or persons, politicians for that area? So how come the processes of corruption leading to inefficiency and lack of delivering on the budget is supposed to be well known to the ICPC and be prevented? That was not prevented.
So what would a citizen like the caller do when you find out that the project is not executed or shabbily done? What would citizens do? Let
me tell you, there is a whole lot of ignorance in our society that is foisted on us by poverty. There is a tyranny of the urgency to survive. People don't read newspapers. People don't know that next to the Constitution, the most important document that they can ever lay their hands on and read in Nigeria is the annual budget. So you ought to know.
But you know the annual budget is so bulky.
It's not that bulky. That's the reason why you have members of the House of Representatives and senators representing the ordinary people who are supposed to, first of all, say that such and such number of projects have been approved, have been put in the budget to be executed this year in such and such places. But efforts are even made to keep these things in the dark so that the people don't even know in order to carry out monitoring. Then we have civil society organizations that are supposed to also take interest in the budget and enlighten the people about it. The people are not interested. And you won't blame them. Because a man who is struggling to get one cocoyam or cassava to eat, you are asking him to read newspaper or to study budget. So the grinding poverty in those areas have also blinded the people to the reality of the fact that there is public expenditure that is supposed to lift them up. So a lot more effort in the terms of advocacy on the part of the National Orientation Agency ought to have been increased so that the people will know the National Orientation Agency has offices in all the local governments of this country. They ought to be the ones informing the people that we are expecting 200 boroughs in Ughelli North local government of Delta State this year. One will be sited in front of the chief's house, another will be sited in front of the school, another will be sited in the front of the community hall. And then the people will be expectant. And they will also put signboard and say this contract has been awarded to such and such and such person. And then the people will be expectant and they are able to monitor. But apart from community development groups like Follow the Money, Code, who are making, and their budget, who are making serious efforts, but what efforts, how much are they able to communicate to the ordinary persons when persons who work in the National Orientation Agency are paid salaries for that purpose? But you go to National Orientation Agency, it is deliberately underfunded, and they will complain. There was a particular year where only 200 million was given to the National Orientation Agency. What would an agency of that magnitude do with that kind of small money? So there's this conspiracy, apparent, alleged conspiracy, that to keep the people in the dark, to weaken the people, is what has led to this docility on the part of the people.
Last week on this program, one of our resource persons, he said that people from the region have individuals, not groups now. People like you've been out there saying a lot of things, but that there's no teaming effort to voice out the rot in NDDC. So what do you think? How do you gather or
how to organize the people of the Niger Delta so that their voices will be heard?
Volume.
You don't know what you are talking about. sorry I speak to you that way. I practically ran away from the Niger Delta and sought safety in Abuja where I can hide. You underestimate the politics of violence, the reign and the use and the systematic use of violence as a means of negotiation in Niger Delta. When I left law school, it was never my intention to practice law anywhere else other than my hometown. Only to get to that place to see that assassinations are a means of settling scores. Shooting and killing one another became a manner which people used to settle scores. You wake up in the morning and you see corpses in front. I'm talking about, I have copious references as of 2005. In fact, a few months later, a DPO was killed in front of in our Upper Fishery Road. The level of violence as a means of communication, as a means of power struggle in Niger Delta is not what refined persons can engage in this kind of advocacy. So let me tell you, do not underestimate. So it's a factor that people are control of public office in order to ultimately control public resources is a do or die affair in the Niger Delta, to the extent that guns and other forms of other arms are used in this process. So it's a warfare. The atmosphere is that of warfare. So it's an insecure place.
This is sounding hopeless.
No,
how do we get out of this?
No, it is not hopeless. We have the gargantuan federal government sitting here with an army, with the police, with the DSS, with all the with the National Security Advisor in charge. They are supposed to restore order. There is no alternative to order. It is an orderly place. What are you talking about? Do you know the region you are talking about? That we should go and organize ourselves and begin to point out at certain persons. They will resort to violence. Who am I to withstand that? When all I have is the knowledge of the law? Why do you think that there was a reign of militancy in the Niger Delta? Let me tell you this. For those of us, if you know, we have been talking about restructuring, we have been talking about resource control. Let us go back to the Niger Delta and ask us to even govern ourselves. What you will find is that we will be in a worse condition than we already are now. So what we expect is that allow the laws as they are. Allow this pretentious representation we have made to the international community as commitment to anti-corruption, commitment to development. Let us allow these things to at least have some foundation, and then we can have progress. If you want to know the evil and the deprivation that has happened in Niger Delta, compare what Dubai is today. Dubai has the resources put in Dubai. We have had more than those resources that could have transformed the Niger Delta better than Dubai. Go to that place, you don't have bridges, you don't have schools, you don't have health facilities. The ones that are there, the few ones that are there, they are poorly managed, they are underfunded and under-equipped. The situation is gory, I agree, it's hopeless, but it can be better and there is hope and solution in sight. Federal government, please show some good faith, goodwill, show some good intention, show some resolve in improving the affairs of Niger Delta. Start by dealing with those persons who have betrayed public trust, and then look for persons who are committed to the development of the people, and then saddle them. ICPC, EFCC, set up structures, monitoring structures. Do not allow corruption to fester, happen, and become negative before you act. That is a betrayal.
Hello.
Name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm Rotimi again from Kubwa.
Let's hear you, Rotimi. 30 seconds, please.
Yes, ma. Because the thing is painful. The lawyer is just you are burning the lawyer too much. You see, let the Niger Delta people. The people that eat this money, let us see them from the Niger Delta dealing with those people before Buhari president can even come in again. Let them boil that place. Abba.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Your name and where you're calling from, please. 30 seconds.
Something from Lokogoma.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I sympathize with the lawyer there. But, if I may digress a little bit, his lamentation is cut across the whole Nigeria. But the Niger Delta is just, the hostility. In that place, the man painted everything that is happening on the ground. Now let's talk about the solution. You see, some vibrant people in Niger Delta, this is the time for them to conscientize people. You understand? The mind of average people at the grassroots in Niger Delta. My brother, I don't want to say something that will make you to yank me off the hair. We need to reorientate people at the grassroots there. And at the same time, the system we run is limited to the growth in that place. How should we allow just one man to administer so much money?
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, good day.
Your name and where you're calling from, please.
Okay, my name is Dixon. I'm calling from Abuja.
Go ahead, Dixon. You have 30 seconds.
Dixon. I'm calling from Abuja.
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Okay, what I need to say is this. I am listening to the lawyer and all your analysis and everything. But let's look at the scenario like this. I will borrow the words of Agbo Soreme that says the revolution for this corruption starts with the president. That is just the simple truth. Now, if we had a case, look at the NDDC case. If we had a situation whereby at the sitting there, the president has suspended the board and told the top management to go ahead and take over. I think this issue of patriotism, it seems to be weakening our system. What we need is responsibility, where people are responsible for their actions, just like the way you have it in the private sector. Because government responsibility is being seen as nobody's responsibility. So when people become responsible for their action, and it can only start with the president. If the president has suspended the board, told the top management to continue with the management of the organization, the chairman of the ICPC, what would have the president done? The president would have just watched him and given him 1 week and see whether they will release a press statement that they are going ahead with investigation. Where there is no investigation, you send him off. You sack him and you bring somebody else. So if we have something like that, because the way the situation of the country is, you heard what the lawyer says, that he cannot even stay in the Niger Delta. So we had a very critical situation and at critical times we expect critical decisions.
Thank you so much for your contribution there. We've had people who said that the institutions, the anti-graft agencies should be strengthened. Others have said that we need to conscientize the people of the Niger Delta, and also people should be held responsible for their action. What would be your advice to the president and your last take on the
people should be held responsible for their action? So we have Cairo Jubo, who is a member of the IMC, saying publicly that Nigeria will break, threatening the very foundations of Nigeria. Nothing can be more important than that. Nothing can make the president shudder. Nothing can make the president, be more afraid that Nigeria will break. And the reason Dr. Cairo Ojubo gives is that only when he releases the list of members of the National Assembly that have collected contract from the NDDC that have not yet been executed. They've not only collected contract, they've collected money. Cairo Jubo today must come and give out those names, or else he is an anti-people person. He is an unpatriotic Nigerian, and then he is also colluding with corruption. This is what we expect. Cairo Jubo, if he does not on his own as a responsible public servant, because he's a public servant, he collects public money, he works for the public. Yeah. If on his own cannot engender enough patriotism in him to release that list, then he should be promptly summoned, and either by the police, the ICPC, the EFCC, or the National Assembly itself, to come and bring that list down and hold those persons responsible. Cairo Jubo cannot be sitting comfortably somewhere in Agbo thinking that he has made a statement just to serve as some political, some political statement to that is dramatic. No, the man should be on the center spot right now. ICPC, that is the question, that is the challenge we are giving to ICPC. Because Cairo Jubo, an appointee of the president, who a member of the interim management committee of the Niger Delta, who has the privilege of documents, having seen, who also has been a very astute politician in the PDP and now APC, saying this kind of thing, equating it with the all-important issue of the unity of Nigeria, and then they're still quiet. They cannot be quiet. If by next week Monday, Cairo Jubo does not release that list, if the agencies, anti-corruption agencies, do not force Cairo Jubo to release that list, if the police does not force Cairo Jubo to release that list, then we know that it has come to the highest form of collusion, that the government or the Nigeria itself is against the people of the Niger Delta.
What will you do immediately if you are the president?
The president has done what he thinks he should do. He has set up an IMC for the purpose of conducting a forensic audit. So that when prosecution is conducted on the basis of facts, then it is better that way, so that it's not often criticized by many of us who say that he often does not follow the law when it comes to prosecution of persons that have offended either the state or the country. So what he should do,
we must go. Our time is almost
what
up.
he should do is that IMC must be held to immediate account. If Cairo Jubo is making a statement to save his face, then he must save his face very well by going further to bring out the list of those persons who have collected money from the NDDC and have not done that work.
Cairo Jubo is the Executive Director of Projects at the Niger Delta Development Commission. Nigerians, public office holders should be held responsible, and that is how we are rounding it up on today's episode of Public Conscience on Radio.
Please visit the news page of our website, news.primorg.org. That is news.primorg.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg.
We sincerely appreciate Barrister Frank Tietie, the human rights activist, lawyer, and the Executive Director, Citizens Advocacy for Social and Economic Rights. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Public Conscience is supported by the John T. and Catherine D. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation at its website, macfound.org.
Kindly join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience. And remember to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Official Primorg. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya.
We encourage you to join us on our Twitter handles at Official Primorg. I am Adaobi Obiabomo, and many thanks for joining us on today's episode of Public Conscience on Radio. Stay safe.